Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the K Touch. It's good to have with me Michael Pietrobon. He's a book designer from Toronto, founder of Foglio. He provides self-publishing consulting to a diverse array of authors. Michael is a self-publisher himself. I'm hoping he's going to share a bit with us on the book he has written because I'm really into fiction as well. And he's just going to tell us about self-publishing and book designs. Michael, welcome to the K Touch.
Thank you for having me, Kay.
I am so excited to have you here, Michael. I've been waiting a long time for this. Now, for the viewers out there, this is my art channel, so I am going to be making some art as Michael is speaking, and Michael will tell me exactly what he thinks about my art at the end of it all. Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I just caught a bit of a cold yesterday, but I'm hanging in there. Yeah,
Oh.
I'm all good.
And how is Toronto?
It was very snowy last week. Things are starting to melt a little bit now. A little bit of warmer weather, a bit of sunshine. So we're doing well here. Yeah.
Oh, nice. In the United Kingdom where I'm based, it's also the same kind of thing at the moment. It's February, but it's towards the end of February, so things are getting a bit better. It's going to be wet. It is what it is. But Michael, I'm really, really happy that you're here because I'm curious about a few things. Now, I know you started this book design company, and I want to know about your journey. But let's just start off first of all with the company. Can you introduce us to Foglio and what it's all about?
So Folio is a company that I started, officially about a year ago, almost to the date. And I founded Folio with the intention to provide a different kind of self-publishing service to self-publishing and independent authors.
Yep.
Because what I found in the industry is that there's not much of a focus on design. It's more so the process and then sort of marketing efforts afterwards.
Yeah.
My view is that good design should dictate everything else, right? It's the leader in book publishing, right?
Yeah.
So my primary focus is to give my authors really well-designed books, and sometimes it might not be exactly what the market wants or what I want to design, but if it's what the author is pleased with and they feel that it's a true representation of their work, then I'm satisfied. Another big aspect that often seems to get overlooked is typesetting. So making the interiors welcoming to new readers, because the cover is going to attract new customers, but it's the interior typesetting that turns customers into readers and fans, right?
Yep.
And I can't tell you the number of times I've picked up a book because it was on sale at the local bookstore and bring it home and look at the interiors, and I see that I really can't read this book, right?
Yeah.
So and then I put it aside, and I'm not a reader of that book. So a lot of my efforts have been to navigate that in a way that is both accommodating to a self-publishing author's needs and the fact that they may not be so experienced in the industry, and giving them a good grounding to compete with traditionally published books.
That's a really nice summary of it all, and I like your point there about the competition with traditionally published books. I think that's really important because I'm an author. I'm quite I would say that I'm quite careful. I'm not going to show you the books I have published because I'm sure your face is going to turn from a smile to a frown if you look at the design in itself. But that's a very good point because we write books but not necessarily have any background in actual design. Well, how long has the company been in existence for?
So I started Folio, like I said, about a year ago.
Oh, right. Yeah. And what was the motivation? I mean, you because you have a background. Do you have a background in design, or was this just something you stumbled into? And
I do have a background in design, but before that, I have a background in editing. So I'm trained as an editor. That's what I studied in university.
all right.
And I was doing that for a little while, but then, in my view, the whole editing side of things and then the design aspect go hand in hand. It's everything that comes before bringing a book to market, right?
Yeah.
So in a certain position I was working in years ago, I was sort of forced into designing books, hired as an editor, but then because of short staff, forced into designing books. And I'll admit the first few weren't that great, but I quickly got the hang of it, learned how to use the programs, and then It's something I've really come to love. And now it's become more of a focus of my work, and the editing has become secondary to that.
Okay. Yeah, but what about the name Foglio itself? How did that come about?
Yeah, so my background is Italian, and I wanted to have some sort of Italian word in there.
Hmm.
Folio is the Italian word for leaf or sheet, so a sheet of paper.
Oh,
However, it's also without the G, it's a print term, right? So there is some print heritage in there, but I put the G in there just for that extra Italian flair. So
right. Okay. I actually like it. It sounds quite posh.
it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really, really posh actually. So I like it, and I like the logo for it as well. Okay, so can you remember the first book you designed under this company, and can you tell us about it if that's all right?
The first book I did under Folio,
Yeah,
let's just use the incorporation as the clear demarcation, because there were books I was doing before
yeah.
this all became a formal thing. It's this one right here. Here Comes the Sun by Alan Rice.
Oh,
It's
nice.
a memoir of the author's journey through Central and South America in the 1960s with his friend. This is the Amazon KDP version, so it doesn't have any photos, but we also did another version that has uh, three photo galleries inside, corresponding to the three different parts.
Oh,
It's
that looks really
very
beautiful.
custom typesetting. It was an absolute joy to work on this. Yeah.
Wow, it looks really beautiful. Okay. So I've already asked if you have a background in graphic design, and I know you did the transition from editing to that background. So let's just go into the book process itself. Now, I'm a bit of a book reviewer as well. I look at books, I read them, and then I actually give some kind of review on them. And one of the things that I'm very careful about is this statement: never judge a book by its cover. What do you think about that generally?
Unfortunately, I mean, it's very rare that I'll find a book that, okay, I'll put it into two categories. There are covers I don't like, right? That I just simply don't like. And there are covers that are on a more objective level,
Hmm.
don't work, right? Because of certain elements that they have. If it's a really poorly done Photoshop job, dated typefaces and gradients and things like that,
Hmm.
that you can safely say is a bad cover. And usually, unfortunately, in my experience, when
Hmm.
you see a book like that, you can sort of make a fairly accurate judgment on the contents,
Hmm.
because and it's not just me. There's data to back this up, that when people see a book that is sloppily designed,
Yeah.
and just to make a distinction, that's different from something that's not designed to your liking, right? But something that's done in a sloppy kind of way,
Yeah.
it suggests to the reader, whether consciously or subconsciously, that the story is put together in the same sort of haphazard fashion, right?
Yeah. Oh, right, right, right. I get where you're coming from with that. So the amount of effort that's being put into the writing of the book would also be reflected in how it looks in a way, because yeah, it
Yeah,
says a lot about the writer's commitment to excellence in that fashion.
exactly. And I totally sympathize with the fact that not every author can, hire a professional designer to do this work. These are expensive things, right?
Hmm.
But there are things that can easily be avoided by just simplifying the design, and, maybe not trying to do the artwork yourself. Maybe having like a text-based cover that works really well.
Hmm.
Uh, there are ways around it. Right?
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, so I judge a book by its cover. After all, you go tr they I for instance use I'm a very good user of Amazon's books that every month they give me as a result of me being on Prime, they give me access to a couple of books, and these are free to download and read. And the first thing I do, obviously, is look at the book's cover, and that's the catch. If it's not good enough, it's not appealing enough, I don't even bother to it. So I judge a book by its cover. I go then and then I start reading and have more judgments to put to pass. But yeah, I agree with you in terms of the preparation for the book. So what? Let's go into the process a bit. What kind of options do you think are available from your experience for a writer in terms of how the book looks and how the book that's on the outside and the inside as well? Because I'm not really I don't have that much information on it. So what kind of options would you present to a writer?
Well, it's different with every book because every book is very different. But generally, I'll ask for relevant excerpts that may inform my design of the cover. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to read every single book, right? Unless I'm doing an editing job, then I very thoroughly read it. But I ask for excerpts, ask for in their own words in a meeting much like this, a summary of what the book's about, what they're trying to achieve with it, who it's for, and then I'll do some research into other books in that genre and see what they all have in common, but also what we can do to sort of surpass that and do a little bit better, perhaps. Again, a lot of this is subjective, but then after that, asking them for what inspires them for the cover. So there's certain paintings, certain sculptures, certain album covers, book covers, whatever it is that they are inspired by. Not that we're necessarily going to imitate or emulate that much, but we can use that as a strong grounding for the design process. And then, it's very rare that the design is completed right from the first draft. That doesn't happen, right? In any kind of design, any kind of graphic design. So in order to ensure that my authors have the best experience and that the final product is exactly what they have in mind, or even better, I offer unlimited revisions on everything I do.
Wow.
So we go back and forth, and sometimes, like this project, for example, it took let's say about 8 months to complete, right? And that applies to the text as well. We'll make any number of revisions to the text just to ensure by the end, before we go to print, it's absolutely perfect.
Well, that's the level of commitment there. I am surprised about that, but that's actually good, because then you give that level of confidence that at least there's been as much in terms of reviews that could possibly be done with the book. Have you ever come across a writer that is really not sure about? So take me, for instance. I come to you for your services and then say, Michael, I don't know exactly what I want. How do you handle that? Because it's different from someone who says, well, I've been inspired by J.K. Rowling's books and I want it to look a bit more like Harry Potter. But what if I don't know exactly what I want? How does it work?
Funny enough, I found that it's very rare for authors to have no idea.
Okay.
Right? Like, they've put a lot of work into the book and they've spent a lot of time with the material. And at least at some point during that process, they must have considered what might be most appropriate for the cover. That being said, there are authors who have very minimal guidance. Like they'll say, I like this painting, I like this movie poster. I'm not saying to copy it directly, but draw inspiration from it. And then I will. And this is where the excerpts that I read really come into play, right? Because if I can represent something either literally or symbolically on the cover, something that relates to the actual text of the book, then that's a great opportunity.
Oh, wow.
And it's rare, but those are the projects I like the most, the ones that have minimal guidance, because I'm able to express my creative insight, right?
Wow. But then, if at the end of the day, have you ever encountered a writer that said, you know what, none of these are good for me? Because that would be the most frustrating, I'd admit, if someone were to come and say that.
Honestly, maybe the authors I've worked with are just very kind people, but I've never had any like flat out rejection or back to the drawing board. It's always working with that, because I don't begin working on it until we've sort of articulated some kind of plan, right? A meeting much like this, well, some ideas will come to mind, and I'll toss them out there, and they'll say, I like that, I don't like that, and then
you take it from there, really. Yeah. Okay. Right. So what parts of the process do you enjoy? So let's look at everything from start to finish. What would you say are the parts of what you do that really bring you the most kind of satisfaction?
Honestly, the whole thing is great. What I find, to answer your question in a kind of inverse way, what I find most difficult or challenging is coming up with the cover design. Like I have this like rush of imposter syndrome every time I'm about to do a new one, right? Like, how am I going to do this? Like, where do I start? And then, of course, it always slowly comes out, right? So it's that initial phase where things are a little bit rocky and difficult, but after that, I thoroughly enjoy it. I like the act of creating the cover, doing the artwork, but then also the very mechanistic act of typesetting and adjusting line spacing and all that, and then
Mm.
working on the ebook and adjusting the code and everything.
Yeah.
I like both sides of it. Right?
Wow. Don't get me started on imposter syndrome. I think imposter syndrome, if it were a person, it knows me by name. Um, and I'm actually I think I'm actually at the point now where I'm getting used to imposter syndrome. I'm like, come and have a seat. This is going to be a journey like we've done before. And it's only after, like you said, you engage with it a couple of times, you know what exactly it is you want. Okay, so common errors in book designs that you've noticed, because I'm sure you in your profession you've come across loads of books. What kind of errors are you would you notice, especially with self-published authors?
Well, see, the way I like to design is fairly radical and a little bit strange. Like I'm not too conservative in the way I like to design.
Yeah.
However, um, like for a cover, for example, if an author came to me and they said that they didn't want to put a title or their author's name or any description on the book, they just wanted a blank cover
Hmm.
with just artwork, I'd say that sounds great. Let's do it. Right. So there are
Wow.
certain conventions that I would be open to overriding. That being said, when it comes to the interiors, I'm a little more conservative
Yeah.
because I at a certain point you can experiment all you like, but the book has to be actually legible, right?
That's why
Um,
it's a book to begin with.
right, exactly. So one thing that it's a minor thing, but I see a lot of book designers not doing this is so you got the margins on the pages of the book.
Yeah.
And these are the outside margins,
Hmm.
and then these are the inside margins.
Yep.
I always like to leave a little extra space in here because the binding,
Yep.
that gutter, takes up a little bit of space.
Hmm.
Adding an extra eighth or a quarter inch on the inside margin
Yeah.
will allow the impression on the page, this text, to be pretty much centered, right?
Yes. Yep.
And not falling into the gutter. I'm also always very generous with margins.
Hmm.
I don't like experimenting with page numbers and where they are because
Okay.
the whole purpose of a page number is that you can quickly flip through it. So I keep them at the outside, at the corners,
Okay.
right? Instead of putting them like up here in the header or something, right? So
Wow. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. You think it sounds very obvious, but I have made that mistake previously. So sending using the KDP software to get my book self-published, only to get a copy, and I'm like, where is this centerpiece that's meant to be all of the words, and only ended up having the words going into the area that was supposed to be the binding space. So yeah, that's something that I'm well aware of, and it's only after a few errors that I finally realized how stupid I was in doing that. So that's one of the common errors in book design. Have you ever revamped a book? So the option of the writers actually had his way in designing the book, only to come back and say, "This is what I did. Save me from this from this error."
honestly, no, no.
Okay.
I wish more authors would do that. It seems to be fairly common for authors to, do the work themselves and then figure, you know what, it's not perfect, but I did it myself. I saved the cost, and if that works for them, then by all means. But
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. So tell me now, in my interview, I love moving from the process, the business, to the person. So who is Michael exactly? I mean, what do you do when you're not designing books and making the world a better place?
What these days I spend a lot of my time working on the business and in the business. Yeah, I mean, I spend time with my family, with my kids and my wife, and they're a refuge from everything else, the craziness of the business.
An escape, yeah.
Other things I do that I enjoy. I mean, I write, right? I write creatively. I write experimental fiction, and yeah, I mean, beyond that, the daily life is fairly packed with
With activities,
things
isn't
to do around the house and taking care of the kids and everything. So
Yeah, but tell me about this your book. I was quite it's rare to see someone who's involved in this kind of business that you are in to actually have a product, but that to me is evidence that it's like, oh, I'm not just a builder, I have something I've built as well. I don't just build for other people, I have built something for myself. So tell me about your book.
Yeah, so that's a great point you're making. Really, a lot of the process that went into articulating what I want to do with Folio
Hmm.
has come from my own experience publishing my own book. Now, I had the advantage of working at a printing company and having the software and knowing how to design a book,
Hmm.
but nonetheless, I learned a lot about the whole process of what it takes to, for an author to surrender their work
Yeah.
and put it out in the world
Hmm.
and design it and just say it's done, put a ribbon on it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can keep revising and revising forever.
Yep. Yep.
So this is my book. It's a novel, and to be honest, I haven't done much to market it
The alphabet of
or to
flowers.
sell it. I'm happy with it, but you know, I released it about 3 years ago to some local bookstores and some friends and family.
Hmm.
But beyond that, I haven't done much with it.
Yeah.
It feels like something I had to get out of my system to prepare me for.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate with that, Michael. I know about it. I'm someone who I fought a lot with imposter syndrome, but the truth is I have to accept it. I am a creative person, and I've in the past had to publish books. And for me, it was I have this concept in my mind. It's very weird, so please don't look at me weird when I say it. But when I have an idea, I want it to die. I need it to get out of my system. I need it I need it to die or maybe come alive is the concept, but I need it to be separate from me so I can focus on something else. But the more I postpone it and not do it, the more I feel very unfulfilled in that particular area. So I can relate with the idea of you having to publish get that book out there. But tell us a bit about the story. What's the idea behind the alphabet of flowers?
So it's actually funny that we brought up imposter syndrome in this conversation because that's pretty much what the book is about. It's about a new rising star in music, but it doesn't really deal too much with the making of music and all of that.
Yeah.
It does at the beginning, but that's just a pretext for this internal struggle of how to say this. The main character Angela is trying to figure out why she is an artist, right? And justifying this fact to herself using her past. So she delves into her past and things that she's done and friends she's had and everything and the influence that they had on her and trying to make something original out of that. So it's a bit of a long-winded way of through different kinds of experimental media. Like there are some chapters that are deliberately written in a very juvenile way, right? There are some chapters that are written as an interview.
Yeah.
Chapters.
Oh, wow, that sounds really interesting, though.
I like to think so, but it might be more of a mess than anything else. Like I said, it's not something that I'm gonna try to get out there in the world. At least.
Oh no, well, you've already got it on my channel, so I'm definitely going to read it. I'm always looking for those kinds of things. So just don't be surprised when I have a book review for it. And it's quite funny because I don't consider myself a good writer at all. There's a particular book my first attempt at writing a book. I called it. It's a book titled "A Letter to My Mathematics Teacher," which was a reflection of me back in secondary school and all the teachers I'd encountered. So I wrote the book, and I'm so ashamed about the book, but I leave it there. Well, it's not there. I want to do another review. I've pulled it out of KDP, but I want to get it back as soon as possible because it's a constant reminder of where I started from in terms of my writing. I want to be able to see the transition. I've written another book is also on KDP, but yeah, I don't. With a book looking that way, I feel like wanting to read it. I'm definitely going to give it a read. So do you consider yourself a writer then? Are we going to see more books coming from Michael?
I mean, I write, so yes, I am a writer.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional writer by any means. But, yeah, I write. So
yeah. So maybe we're going to see what are we going to see another book though? Maybe
certainly.
In the future?
Certainly.
Is there something in the cards for that?
Yeah. I've made significant progress in the last few months, and I'm working on that actively. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's not say too much on that right now because I might have you back, but this time not as a book designer, but actually a writer, a published writer. So tell us about Folio Books. 10 years from now, what's the projection? What are you looking at?
Well, I'd like to get to a point where I'm working with designers who are better than me, right? Like, I think I'm pretty good at designing books, but I know there are designers that are even better, right?
Hmm.
I want Folio to be the place where people come when they want a book designed well. End of story.
Hmm.
So whether, there are certain projects that are just not appropriate for my style, right?
Yeah.
So it would be, employing a bunch of designers who are able to creatively express themselves in the form of designing books,
Yeah.
whether it's covers or interiors or what have you, and sort of overseeing that, right?
Okay.
Than
Wow.
being the one person doing all the design myself,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's because it's really interesting because when I came across I'd say first of all, I was just searching for book authors and all of that. But seeing you as a book designer, I think that's actually something that needs to be put out there a bit more, especially for self-published authors. I think it's really, really important because there are things that writers don't want to disturb themselves with. That's why we have traditional publishing houses to begin with. People just say, okay, I have this book, take over the rest of the process. But you are basically, as the way I see it, you are creating a service that's much needed in that space where people don't necessarily have access to traditional writers can actually book your services on a contractual basis and get that same professional experience. So I think it's really great, actually.
And all of that while retaining the rights to their book, right? I don't take any rights, any
Yep,
ownership.
yep,
Well,
yep, yep.
I just provide the service and then consult from there.
Yeah, and they maintain creative control over it because I think one advantage with your service is that, well, as compared to a traditional service, is they might feel with traditional service is a bit overwhelmed. You walk into a place and you've never been there before. That space of people who might be a bit more experienced, bringing out all of these past books they've done, and then you're like, okay, well, I trust the experts, but you seem to be giving more of a um, consult with us and let's be part of that journey to bring in your book to reality.
It's a very collaborative service that I offer.
Yeah,
In addition to the unlimited revisions, there's unlimited correspondence. Authors can book a meeting with me anytime. Um, I I work with them, not for them
yeah,
or under them or anything like that.
yeah,
It's very collaborative. Yeah.
yeah. And I think another thing is you're not trying to create the book in your image because you that's again comparing you. I'm sorry, I have to say this because with traditional authors, traditional book publishers, they've got to maintain a certain degree of oh, this is how the history has been with this kind of book service, but with you it's all about the author. So can you we'll get gradually coming to the end of this interview. I just want you to give a final word for authors generally.
Well, I would urge authors to, not discount the importance of good design.
Mm,
And like I alluded to earlier, good design, good cover design is what attracts new buyers, but good typesetting is what turns them into avid readers and
yeah.
fans, and people review your book and tell other people about it. So, that we have this aphorism in society that says, "Don't judge a book by its cover."
Mm,
I I don't agree with that at all.
yep.
And even if it were right in principle, it's not something that is going to change anytime soon. So you may as well get your cover done right.
Correctly, yeah, yeah, and why do it at all if you're not going to do it properly? That's something I want to live by. So thank you very much, Michael, for really a very lovely insight on book design. How can interested authors contact you?
So easiest way to get in touch with me and learn more about what I do is to go to folioprint.com. That's FOGLIOPRINT.com. You can also find me on Instagram at folio.studio, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the social media. And yeah, just shoot me an email if you're interested in publishing your book and don't know what to do next. I'm
Hmm.
happy to consult on every step of the process.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate that. Well, that's Michael, and I'm really impressed by what he does. Honestly, I'm going to share links to Michael, and you see a lot of Michael's TikToks and Instagram posts are really sharing things such as lettering and alphabets and a lot on book designs as well. So really be inspired by that, and hopefully we can get Michael, I say again, on the show because I want to read his book. So Michael, the thing about my show is my podcast is I love to make art. And while you were speaking, I was trying to make some art of you. And I want you to give me your professional opinion about this art that I have made. So I'm going to show it to you now. And please don't be nice, be honest. I'm not one of those people who takes things too seriously. So this is what I was able to do. Now, it's only a sketch, but this is what I have been able to do in the conversation we've had today. And I'll explain why I've done it. So, let me put this in the light. So, Michael, I have made an art piece of you. Now, it's not complete, but I am working on it. Let me explain what this is. So, I'm going to title this the book Genie. So, I consider you as a genie. Basically, you've got a lamp over here, and basically they just need to rub the right. Basically, by contacting you, they rub the lamp, and then you come out and you make the book design wishes come true. So that's exactly how I see you. And yeah, Michael, representing Foglio Books, the book Genie. What do you think?
It looks like you gave me glasses, and I'm not wearing glasses.
No, I didn't give you glasses, Michael. This is me still working on your eyes. I'm not sure exactly. At some point, I'm meant to shade this out, but it's all a work in progress. I'm going to get you. So that is that's a definition line. It's meant to help me decide where your eyes are. So that's it. But you definitely don't wear glasses.
I like it, and I like the concept behind it. I didn't know I was balding that badly, but
no, Michael. Again, this is still me working on your hair, so don't worry about it.
Make it nice and full.
I'm going to make it, honestly, I'm going to make it nice and full. I'm not guaranteeing that it would look anything like you once I'm done, but this is my representation of you, basically. So awesome. I'm going to get this signed off. You're going to get a professional signature, the K-Touch, and I'm going to get it across to you along with a letter of appreciation because honestly, I appreciate the value you bring, and I'm really glad to have you on my show.
Well, thank you so much, Kay. And you know what? As a token of my gratitude to you, I'm going to send you a copy of The Alphabet of Flowers because it's not available anywhere online.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Michael, that is... Oh, no. Well, it's going to just keep on being favor after favor because your book is next on my reading list. I have a book every month. So I'm going to get your book in and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about it. But in summary, I think your service is amazing. And I think it's really good to let people know out there, especially self-publishing authors, about your service of bringing your book to light. Thank you so much again for what you do.
Thank you so much, Kay. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun. So hopefully I'm going to have you again, but this time as a writer to interview you on the book writing process.
That's a good goal for next year. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good. Thank you so much, Michael. So everyone else, please have a great day, and I'll see you in my next episode.